The world is a churning violence of grey water and lung-burning salt. One moment. The familiar sounds of hurricane. The sharp crack of shellfish on stone. A cousin's love. Echo across the rich littoral zone. The next. The sky turns the color of a bruise and the sea rises up. A liquid wall that does not break but simply swallows the shore. Her grip on the kelp's slick rocks is torn away. The torrent, a force with no malice and no mind, takes her. It is a chaotic eternity of being dragged and tumbled in the cold, dark deep, her lungs screaming for air that isn't there. Then, the final, brutal impact against sand on stone, and the roaring world goes silent. Consciousness returns not as a gentle dawn, but as a series of sharp, distinct pains. The grating of sand against her cheek, the searing fire in her shoulder, the raw, rasping ache in her throat. She pushes herself up, coughing a torrent of seawater, her body a trembling, exhausted not of survival. Before her, the ocean that tried to kill her now breathes in a slow, steady rhythm, its fury spent. It is a vast, indifferent expanse of blue, marking the smallness of the island it has marooned her on. She scrambles to her feet, ignoring the pain that shoots through her ankle. Her eyes, the sharp, intelligent eyes of Homo sapiens, scan the horizon in every direction. There is nothing, no smudge of a distant coastline, no sign of the others. The world that held her entire life, a tight web of faces, voices, and shared histories, has vanished. She calls out, a rough, desperate sound torn from her throat. The cry is thin, eaten by the wind and the ceaseless crash of the waves. She calls again, the names of her mother, her brother. The silence that answers is a physical thing, a weight that presses down on her, more suffocating than the water. This is the first true test of early humans, a creature whose very existence is defined by the group. To be alone is to be incomplete. A single finger trying to do the work of a hand. Panic, cold and sharp, rises in her chest. But something older and deeper pushes it down. The instinct is not to weep, but to move, to live. The sun is high now. Its heat and forgiving, thirst, the dry and dusty command, asserts itself over grief, her inherited knowledge. The blueprint of a million years of survival clicks into place. Water, shelter, food, in that order. She turns her back on the sea, the great betrayer, and limps inland, her gaze sweeping the alien vegetation. Every plant is a question, every shadow a potential threat. The island's interior is dense, a tangle of broad-leafed plants and strange, thorny vines. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and unseen blossoms. The sounds are a disorienting chorus of insect clicks and bird calls she does not recognize. This is the raw material of prehistoric life, a world that gives no quarter and offers no easy answers. After a painful search, her eyes catch the faint glimmer of moisture on a rock face. A soup, fresh water, slow but clean, trickles down the stone. She presses her lips to it, the cool liquid a blessing on her swollen tongue. Nearby, a shallow overhang offers a modicum of shelter from the sun in the coming night. It is not a home. A home is a place with other people. This is just a place not to die. As the sun bleeds across the horizon, painting the sky in colors of fire and farewell, the island's nocturnal life begins to stir. Strange rustling s in the undergrowth, the distant snap of a twig. In the darkness of her small cave, she wraps her arms around herself, not against the cold, but against the sheer, crushing totality of her solitude. The greatest predator on this island is not the one with teeth and claws. It is the silence where a human voice should be. The sun and moon trade places with a rhythm that has lost all meaning. Days are measured not by light, but by hunger. Weeks are marked by the slow, agonizing healing of a gash from a sharp rock or the discovery of a new source of food. Her body has been pared down to its essential elements: sinew, bone, and a will as hard and sharp as flint. Her skin, once the color of ochre earth, is now a map of sun-darkened patches, scratches, and insect bites. This is the unglamorous truth of survival. A relentless negotiation with death that is won one mouthful at a time. Her initial explorations have yielded a small, bitter tuber and the occasional clutch of bird eggs, stolen from cliff-side nests at great risk. The bounty of the sea is a constant temptation and a constant frustration. Crabs scuttle away into crevices, and fish are ghostly flickers, impossible to grasp. Her mind, a tool honed by generations of collective problem-solving, adapts. This is the dawn of primitive technology, born not from leisure, but from an aching belly. She finds a hard, water-smoothed stone and uses it to hammer open the tough shells of strained, nut-like fruits that would otherwise be inedible. She strips a long, pliable vine and practices for hours, learning its weight, its arc, until she can lash out with surprising speed to stun the fat, slow-moving lizards that bask on the sun-warmed rocks. Each small success is a universe of triumph, each failure a step closer to the edge. Yet, the physical struggle is a known enemy. The true battle is waged in the crushing silence. The endless sigh of the wind and the drone of insects are no substitute for language, for the simple, binding sounds of a community. The memories of her people, once a source of comfort, are becoming sharp-edged ghosts. The sound of her mother's voice is fading, the face of her brother blurring at the edges. This is a terror our human ancestors were never meant to face. Loneliness is a slow-acting poison, and she can feel it working on her, eroding the very structure of her thoughts. In a desperate act of self-preservation, her mind performs a miracle of cognitive fluidity. One afternoon, sitting exhausted on the beach, she sees not just debris, but shapes. An old piece of driftwood suggests a stooped shoulder. A coconut, with its 3 dark eyes, becomes a face. She gathers them. With charcoal from a long-dead fire, she gives them pupils. With strands of her own hair and tough seagrass, she gives them fall. She arranges them near her shelter. A silent, watching council, a Tory. Then stone becomes her father. A cluster of smooth, white pebbles are the children she would play with. She has not gone mad. She has done something far more profound. She has rebuilt her world. Now, the silence is populated. She speaks to them, her voice raw and unused at first, a stranger's sound in her own ears. She recounts her day, the hunt for the lizard, the discovery of a freshwater spring further inland. She brings them offerings, a bird's iridescent feather for the one that is her sister, a perfectly shaped shell for her mother. When she eats, she sets a portion aside for them, a pantomime of sharing, a powerful act of remembered altruism that keeps the human part of her alive. They do not answer, but their unblinking, painted eyes are a fixed point in the chaos of her solitude. They are the audience to her struggle, the silent witnesses that affirm her existence. She is no longer just a solitary creature trying not to die. She is a woman, with a family, on an island at the edge of the world. It is a fragile, heartbreaking fiction, but it is the only thing holding the void at bay. The sky, for a full season, has been a predictable canvas of blue and white, but the Pleistocene is a world of violent winds. The storm arrives with no warning, a black wall of wind and water that boils up from the horizon. It hits the island not as rain, but as a physical blow. The wind shrieks, tearing leaves from trees and turning the sand into a blinding, stinging scourge. She huddles in her shelter, listening to the world being ripped apart. The sea, a monstrous, roaring beast, surges past the high tide line, a churning flood of white foam that scours the beach. When the storm finally passes and a bruised dawn reveals the aftermath, she crawls from her cave to a scene of total devastation, and she sees that her family is gone. The stones are scattered, the driftwood is washed away, the coconut head swallowed by the sea. The silent, watchful council has been obliterated. There is nothing left, no painted eyes, no familiar shapes, just bare, red sand, the fiction she had so carefully constructed. The one thing keeping her mind intact has been erased. The silence that rushes back in is absolute. A vacuum that pulls the breath from her lungs. This is a loss deeper than hunger. A solitude so profound it borders on non-existence. For days, she is a ghost, moving without purpose. Her hands idle, her gaze empty. The spark of ingenuity is gone, drowned in a sea of utter despair. Why hunt? Why drink? The body can live, but the person is dying. This is the ultimate test of hominid history. Not to survive the world, but to survive oneself. It is a flicker of memory that saves her. By night, long ago, sitting within the warm circle of her clan, the firekeeper, an old man with scarred hands, spinning a stick in a notch of wood, his body rocking in a patient rhythm. She remembers the wisp of smoke, the smell of hot wood, the sudden, magical birth of a flame in a bed of dry moss. The memory is a seed, an idea. It is the most complex challenge she has ever faced, a form of ancient knowledge she had only ever witnessed. The next morning, a new light is in her eyes. Purpose. She finds a piece of dry softwood washed into the forest by the storm. She selects a hard, straight stick. Her first attempts are clumsy, infuriating. The stick slips. The wood refuses to heat. Her hands are rubbed dry until they bleed. Day after day, she fails. The simple memory of the firekeeper's effortless grease mocks her. But the intelligence of ancient humans is not just in the idea, but in the obstinate refusal to surrender. She learns. She adjusts her grip, changes the angle, finds drier tinder. She is undertaking her first great experiment in pyrotechnology, the elemental science that would one day allow her kind to conquer the planet. Then, one evening, as her muscles scream and tears of frustration blur her vision, it happens. A smell, acrid smoke, a tiny, glowing ember in the dark dust she has created. She freezes, hardly daring to breathe. Gently, cupping it in her hands, she transfers the ember to her prepared nest of the driest, finest fibers she could find. She blows, a soft, steady breath, the breath of life itself. The ember glows brighter.
Side by side,
A wisp of smoke becomes a thread, and then a tiny, perfect flame flickers into existence. It is brighter than the sun, more beautiful than any flower. It is life. It is power. It is a weapon against the dark and the cold. And it is a companion. That night, she does not sleep in a cold, dark cave. She sits before her fire, its light dancing on the cave walls, its warmth a living presence against her skin. The fire needs her. It must be fed, protected, and in return, it protects her. She is still alone, but she is no longer adrift in the void. She has an ally. In the dancing flames, she does not see the faces of her lost kin. She sees the reflection of a survivor, a solitary woman of formidable will, the sole inhabitant of her own hard-won world. We pull back from the island, a tiny green jewel in an endless blue. The smoke from her fire is single, defiant smudge against the sky. We leave her there, in her solitude, but she is no longer a castaway. She is a pioneer. Her lonely struggle, unseen and unrecorded, is a microcosm of the great journey of human evolution. The forces that shaped her, the intelligence to solve a problem, the foresight to prepare for the night, the profound need for community, even a community of ghosts and embers, are the very forces that pushed our ancestors out across the continents. Her fire is not just a tool, it is a symbol. It is the birth of the hearth, the central point around which families, clans, and civilizations would one day gather. In her desperate battle against the erosion of her own mind, she demonstrated that our greatest tool was never the stone axe or the sharpened spear. It has always been the ability to create meaning in a meaningless world, to build a home in the heart even when the world offers no shelter. Her story, most of the time, is written into the deepest structures of our own minds. How much of her quiet, desperate courage still burns within the warm, welded circles of our own lives, a final defense against the darkness that always waits beyond the edge of the firelight. The bedrock of our world was laid down in silence, by hands that are no longer here to receive our thanks. What happens when the fire goes out?